Hi, I'm Gene Kempner, Vice President of the PPTA, and we're here in the third of our series of How Do They Do It. We're here with two-time national champions Brian Uihlein and Dave Keevins, and they are going to show us how they work their magic with their overheads, how they have two of the most unique overheads in the game and shots that nobody else can really hit. So we're going to do a couple of demo shots with them, and they will hit what is called the slash overhead. Dave, I was talking to you earlier, and you said you have three types of overhead that you like to hit. What's the sequence you like to hit these overheads in?
Well, the three overheads are really designed to keep the opponent in the deuce court off balance. So I have a hard slash that's just designed to go right at the person. The ball doesn't really bounce that much, it's just more pace. Then I have a deep floating shot, and then I have a drop shot to try and end the point. But the hope is that all three of these shots look the same, so the opponent really doesn't know which one is coming, and it keeps them on their toes.
And you really have to wait for the right sort of a ball to hit this on, like a short lob, for example, is that right?
The short lob is the easiest and it's the least risky. The deeper the lob, the more difficult it is to hit a short overhead. So yeah, you're really looking for lobs that are going to bounce within the service line up toward the net, and preferably a little bit closer to the middle of the court in order to hit these shots. If it gets too close to the sideline, it makes it much more difficult to bring it over toward the deuce court player. There's just too much potential for error from that.
All right, so Dave, the three things that are foremost in your mind when you're hitting this shot, what are they?
Well, again, this is a dynamic point, so things are happening. What I really need, we need to see where the lob is coming from and whether this person on the deuce side is shifted over. How close to the net the overhead is. The closer to the net the lob is, the more choices I have. The deeper the lob is, the more difficult. It takes away a couple of options. And then how close to the sideline I am, that also takes away some options. So it really needs to be preferably a shorter lob in the middle of the court, gives me all the options.
Why don't you come on over here and show us, as you here on the ad side, how do you position your feet and what are you looking for as far as your point of contact?
Okay, so as the point is going on and I'm starting to get a sense of where the lob is, I'm in my customary position. Gina and I are blocking off the court like we normally would as a team. As I see that lob go up, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get real sideways. I think most overheads, you're like this to the net. I'm actually, my back is almost to the net, because with this swing, what I'm doing is my body torque is coming around the side of the ball, which brings up another point. My partner has to be aware that the swing radius of this shot is so large that if he stays in a normal spot, he's going to get hit, because most contact is made up here with an overhead. The heavy spin overhead that I hit is really made, it's almost a side arm. So what I'm doing is coming around the ball, so my swing radius comes way out, not up over the top of the ball. So I'm getting sideways, I'm turning sideways, torquing my body, and then I'm slashing around the bottom, 430, 530 of a clock on the ball to give it that side spin.
You and Brian are very unique in hitting this shot. Where did you come up with the concept of hitting this ball?
Well, I think one of the things that Brian and I looked at is paddle is a very two-dimensional game, so to speak. We've got people at net, within 2-3 feet of the net, and we've got people on the baseline, and there's really no play in the transition area. And people start to miss volleys when they're 5-6 feet off the net. I think it's more difficult. Same concept applies. If we can get people out of their comfort zone on the baseline and get them moving around or coming into an area of the court or just running and having to sprint to a ball, it makes it much more difficult for them to have their natural swing and to keep the ball in play. So one of the things we wanted to do was make the court three-dimensional. A second thing is I think Brian is the best in the game at picking on the ad court player. His overhead is devastating on the ad side. But it's very difficult for a right-handed player to be able to pick on the deuce court player. So I started, quite frankly, just tinkering and toying with the possibility of figuring out a way to put some pressure on the deuce court player. That way we've got both opportunities to it. We can either go at the deuce court player, we can go at the ad court player, depending upon the situation, depending upon the team. Typically in paddle, only a left-handed player was able to really pick on a deuce court player. So this is what allowed us to come up with a way to make the deuce court player have to stay involved and have pressure on their lobs as well.
And we're here with the other portion of the national championship team, Brian Uihlein, who is probably the creator of this shot. And he has one of the most unique ways of hitting this ball from the ad court into the ad court, and particularly into the side screen, where you hit this shot, hits the court, grabs the screen, and it really does some amazing things after that. Can you describe exactly what you're thinking about when you're hitting this shot?
What I'm thinking about is trying to cut the ball on the side, and I wanted it to hit the side screen first, and then as soon as it gets to the back screen, I want it to drop straight down. So basically there's no possible way they can get it back.
And what is the importance of mixing up your spins? I mean, you've got about 3 speeds on this shot just to keep the opponent off balance. Is that your main reason for mixing up the speeds?
Yeah, I want to vary how far up the side screen I'm hitting it, so that they can't just sit there. If it comes too far up the side screen, then it's easy to get back. So I'll mix it up on the back screen. This doesn't make any sense.
All right, so Brian, you have what you refer to as a kill overhead. Would you explain that?
I would say what I'm doing is trying to get the ball spinning counterclockwise, so when it hits the screen, it basically hugs the side screen and barely makes it really soft to the back screen and then drops straight down. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to aim for almost as close to the back screen as possible. I'd say in between probably the last 2 poles. I got about 4 different overheads. One, I'll hit a flat hard one into the side screen off the back screen to try and back them more into the middle of the court, which gives me more access to the deep side screen, because that's where I need to hit a cutter to try and drop to make it hit off the back screen and drop straight down. Sometimes I'll hit a top spin overhead, which really makes it hit the side screen, back screen, and really kick towards the deuce court. And then there's a waterfall overhead. I think Rodney calls it, where it's a flop overhead. But most people that I see do it try and hit it into the side screen, where I try and hit it in the back screen and then into the side screen. So those are kind of 4 different overheads. When I'm really trying to hit the slash, this is about the grip I'm over to. It'd be kind of similar to a one-hand backhand grip in tennis. Be as kind of a severe continental grip if you're playing tennis on a forehand.
Do you ever like to let this ball land and then hit the overhead?
A lot of times if I get a real short overhead, I prefer to let it bounce, because I feel like as the ball bounces, as it's coming up, I'm hitting down on it, and it makes the spin get exaggerated. I also get a chance to really line up and make sure I can guide it into the screen. So some of the best kill shots I ever have is after the ball hits the ground and is slowly bouncing up.
Then you have one other shot which has become sort of legendary. It's called the Albuquerque. Would you describe the Albuquerque for us, please?
I would say the Albuquerque shot is a shot that you can really humiliate your opponent, but it's high risk, high reward.
It's always fun, though.
It's always fun on a Wednesday night league match, and basically you've got to let the ball drop almost behind you and hit it straight up, and then most people come charging in thinking they've got the easiest overhead to put away, easiest ball to put away, and the ball bounces straight left, and they're frozen, and then I laugh.
All right, just to wrap this up, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming, and your insights were very valuable, and we hope you can repeat the national championship in 2009. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Gino.
Sure.
Thanks, Gino.
Yep.
Hold on.